What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, and welcome to Lactic Acid. I am your host, Dominique Smith. Today, we have a baller, a shot caller, somebody that throws the javelin much farther than people can run, and that is not an exaggeration. It's been a multiple world championships teams, including this last one in Eugene and the Olympic team, and she's doing big things on the field and outside of the track. Miss Ariana Ince is today's guest. What's going on? How you doing?
Not a lot, Dom. Just running around trying to get everything ready before I do this last minute trip to Italy. So I'm glad that I could
Man,
squeeze you in. This was
I
important.
I'm thankful too because that is the biggest YOLO thing, and I am here for it. That is something that is epic. Like last minute trip to get some throws in to get good food in Italy. If
Yeah.
anything else, yes,
Yeah,
it's
I booked the ticket on Friday. So I think that's gotta be so I booked it within 48 hours. I think that's gotta be my shortest booked flight to Europe record,
you,
48 hours.
you see, we just setting records here on the show. That's what we do.
Already. Yeah, absolutely.
It's we catch W's, no L's, no L's. All right. I've been asking guests this question because it's summer, and as a native Floridian, born and raised here, still live here in the beautiful city of Orlando, it is hot. Get used to it, but I don't like it. So let's just say Brother Ben and Brother Jerry came to you, said, Ariana, you're a pretty big deal, and we need to create an ice cream promotion that expresses how big of a deal you really are. So we want you to give us two flavors, and we want a name for both of the flavors. So one name for the two flavors for this big promotion that we're going to run. What would be the two flavors of ice cream, and what would the name of the promotion be?
Ooh, okay. All right, I'm go full disclosure on this one. It's not going to be a popular statement. I
Uh-oh.
don't love ice cream. I, I like
So okay, so let's switch it up.
I
What
I
dessert
can
do
still
you like?
create an ice cream. I just want you to know, um, that's never my go-to. Like people
That's
will offer me ice cream and think that I'm crazy and that I'm on some sort of weird diet. I'm not. I don't love ice cream. And if you want to end this interview right now because that's just such an
Listen,
obscene thing to say.
we now let me just say this. I have never heard that before. I'm not gonna lie to you. Especially you grew up in Texas and
I
we're in the
know where it's
South.
like I'm supposed to love Bluebell. Like I'm just
So
I yeah.
so we can switch it up. It's okay. We don't discriminate. Um what dessert are you a fan of?
I can I make like a chip flavor, like potato
Yeah,
chips?
yeah,
Like
yeah. Oh yeah, let's do it.
I love potato chips.
Okay.
Like if you put down a bag of potato chips and a chocolate cake in front of me, I'm gonna pick up the
Ooh,
bag of potato chips 10 out of 10 times.
okay.
Just I want salt, I want fat. I I don't really love the sugar. I don't know what it is. There's
That's
probably something in my brain that's broken. I
No,
I
no.
don't
There's a section of people who love sweets like myself, and
mhm,
then there's a section of people who are more of the on the savory side.
yeah.
So if it makes you feel any better, Guy Fieri hates sweets. So and
So
look
great.
what
Now
he's
I'm
doing.
Guy Fieri. I just
But listen, he just signed like a $90 million deal with Food Network. I mean,
man,
listen,
you're right.
you're the ergonomist of Flavor Town, so I think you're okay. So
I
yeah,
have a
let's
slightly
just
better haircut than Guy Fieri, but
a way
only
better hair.
just so.
A way better haircut. Way better haircut. Guy, if you're listening to this, sponsor this show. That's good with me.
Yeah, right,
But yeah,
right.
let's do chips. Let's say, are you a fan of Lay's?
I'm a fan of Lay's, so we like all those you know how Lay's always had the, like, the competitions to design the chip flavors? Um, I always thought those were great, and I just every time someone came out with a flavor, I was like, "Why don't we just do that one?" That's all of those are great ideas. Um,
Yeah.
so they've come up with so many. I'm a good old salt and vinegar fan, classic,
Okay, so
but
salt
also
and
a little
vinegar
sea
is
salt
one.
and cracked pepper.
Okay.
Maybe if you put salt and vinegar, but then also added cracked pepper. I don't know if that's too much and too basic, but I love that idea.
What would it be called?
What would it be called? Um, Maybe as an homage to Guy Fieri, we would just call him Flavor Town. I don't even know. I'm
I
not
would
being very
call
creative
it
at the moment.
I would call it, this is stupid, but I would call it Under the Sea
Ooh, ooh,
because
yeah, I like that.
you got there's salt literally under the sea.
Mhm.
Uh, got sea salt, and then underneath you got the vinegar and the cracked pepper. I don't know
I
if
like
that's
it.
okay.
No, I think you've done it. I think you've crushed your own thing where I threw you a curveball and you're like, "No, no, I'm still creative enough. I'm gonna come up with Under the Sea." I
I
applaud you for that. That was quick.
well, I appreciate that. I will take that because I was sitting there trying to think. I used to try those flavors too. Mine actually, I take that. I tried one flavor and I thought I was gonna die when they had those combinations. I tried the chicken because I am a fried chicken fanatic. I got a
Ooh,
section on this show called A Bucket of Track Talking Fried Chicken where we eat wings. You're more than welcome to come on if you're about that wing life.
yeah,
Uh
absolutely.
yeah, we'll make it happen in the off season.
Yeah.
But I tried the chicken and waffles and it tasted like waffle batter that had been on hard times.
Ooh. See, and that's where I think sometimes with some of these flavors, they do too much. Like,
Mhm.
that's why I went with, like, we're gonna add topping like, the chip is the carrier for the topping, right? Like, I'm not
Correct.
trying to turn the potato chip into a waffle.
Right.
That's where I think people get fouled up. Um, like, if you wanna add like, you could do, like, a sweet chip, like, you could do, like a kettle style chip, like kettle corn, like
Yeah.
popcorn, but, like, do it on a potato chip, and it'd probably be okay. But don't try and make the potato chip a cake. Like, don't try and make the potato chip a fried chicken. Like, the
Yeah.
chip is the carrier for the spice. That's
And
it.
the chip is already fried, so you don't need to add another. I would hope they don't do the sweet, the good sweet for me when it comes to potato chips is if you did a like a honey barbecue chip,
Mm.
whatever case might be. I don't like that personally. My go-to,
See, and I don't like barbecue chips either. And I
yeah.
think it's because they are a little bit more sweet, and I'm clearly just not sweet in any capacity, flavor, or personality.
Oh
Just
boy.
just straight salty.
Salty, say, hey, listen, ain't nothing wrong with a savory personality. That's what it
There you
is.
go.
I'm not mad at it. Sweet, no. I see. I'm basic. I like a plain chip. I'm a Cape Cod brother. Shout out
Oh,
to Miss
those are good
Vicky's.
too.
Miss
Mhm.
Vicky's. Those are my go-to because the chips aren't that hard, and there's the appropriate ratio of salt to chip. They're not over
Yes.
salty. Lay's can be
Yeah.
over salty at times. Um, and then the chips don't crush the inside of your gums.
Or, like, cut you all up? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know all the dentists and cardiologists who are listening to this are just having a field day. Y'all can link in and subscribe to, especially if you're giving discounts. But okay, that is. Listen, I'm not mad at it. Now I have a new question to add to the repertoire. So see, that's why we have throwers on the show because we
Yeah.
should run the world quite literally. So, speaking of throwing, you are a javelin thrower, but your
Mhm.
journey is unique because you did 6 sports. From what I understand, you were Randy Moss before Randy Moss was a thing in Texas playing football. Because you were faster and you could catch, you played corner. So I'm pretty sure that you can lower the boom on somebody. Uh, you were a pole vaulter, which I think is the most insane event in track and field. That scares the heck out of me, the pole
Right.
vault. And then you are a javelin thrower. But what impresses me the most is you, and even watching you compete, you are like the most, your javelin IQ is pretty high. Because I say that because just your journey. So at Rice, you were doing, I think, the multis, and then they would throw you into the javelin, and they weren't even like coaching you. They just like, okay, go throw this thing. Um,
More or less, I did one multi. So I was a pole vaulter like
Pole
through and
vaulter,
through. Like
yes.
that was my event. And then going into my senior year, all of a sudden they were like, "Why don't we have you do the multi?" And I was like, "It seems a little bit late for this." Um, I've never run hurdles in my entire life. I haven't high jumped since the 8th grade. Pole vault isn't even in the multi. Okay, sure. So I did one multi. So, well, I would like to set the record straight that I am in fact not a multi-eventer in
No,
any
no, I
capacity.
that's my bad. That's my bad.
Just no, you're fine.
Um,
Just because I don't have that capacity for um just that many events in one day. That's why I love the javelin. I just could still
but
smoke a cigarette if you really wanted to. It's an anaerobic event.
I mean, you really could, put the cigarette out because once you lean back, then you're in some trouble.
Yes.
Um, but the javelin, what was it about the javelin that you were like, you know what? Put the pole down, put the pole vault down. It's time to chuck this thing.
Yeah.
Like, why the
Um,
javelin?
well, and I'm flattered that you think I have a high javelin IQ because I feel like I'm still very much new to it,
I'll tell
even
you
though
why
I'm
in a
not.
minute. I'll tell you why in a
Okay.
minute.
So the biggest thing for me is in pole vaults, there are so many variables that are constantly changing. So as an athlete, you're kind of constantly working on this, getting faster, getting stronger, all those sorts of things. But as you do that as an athlete, in pole vault, other variables start to change. So, like your grip height starts to change, the size of the pole starts to change, like where you're running from starts to change. And I was starting to get on these bigger and bigger and bigger poles that I wasn't comfortable with because I couldn't get my hand all the way around them. Like for the speed that I was bringing in and the height that I was gripping at and the amount that I weighed, I was getting on poles that typically the men were using. And it was starting to just be a little bit too much of a mental thing. Whereas with javelin, when you get bigger, faster, and stronger, the implement stays the same size. And that freedom to like get bigger and faster at whatever speed you want to was a nice relief compared to pole vault, where there's so many different things that you have to worry about. Also, it's ever so slightly easier to travel to the airport with
Oh
javelins than
yeah.
pole vault poles. So that was just an added bonus. And throwing stuff's really fun. So
The thing about
easy answer there.
the thing about the javelin, and why I say you have a high javelin IQ, because to relay it so eloquently to pole vault, because now I understand what you're talking about, how it relates, but also you picked up on it, rather quickly. You would, at least from what I've seen, people have been doing this, since they were at, knee high to a grasshopper. They
Mhm.
have, experience in it. I can tell you in Florida, uh, we certainly didn't have the pole vault. The pole vault just came back a couple years ago.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I think somebody got hit. Um, and I know, unfortunately, that's not an uncommon theme, but I started covering track and field back in 2019 for Florida runners, and then I think they told me it came back a year earlier or something like that. Um, but it's just so unique to see, like, hear your journey, hear your story from a pole vaulter to your senior year in the javelin. But you've made three world championship teams. You have a medal in I think it's I know
Pan
you won gold
Americans.
Pan American in the NACAC. I think I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right.
NACAC.
You
It
did
was
it
just
great.
okay. We're W's. Usually I catch a few L's, but the
No, you're
W
doing
is
great. You pronounced my name right, so as far as I'm concerned, you've knocked it out of the park.
oh, okay. Well, you cannot disrespect somebody by getting their name wrong. That's just the way it is. That's the rule. But to see like how late in the game, if you will, you started to the success that you've had, and I mean, you're still going. Like I said, you're not. It's not like you stop. You're still going, you're still competing, and obviously you're still going to continue to get better and better with the experiences. That's why I say it definitely, feels like you have a really, really high track IQ or javelin IQ, especially, when you're not training, with a big group and everything.
Yeah, and I think some of that too is it's both an advantage and a disadvantage to start a sport later, because you've already matured as an athlete. I've already kind of gotten stronger. I know where all my limbs are. I'm not still going through growth spurts, things like that, and also trying to um, throw the javelin. And I think pole vault prepared me more for some of that elasticity through the shoulders and some of that tension through your core that also relates back to throwing. So I got a lot of um, good reps in that maybe weren't javelin specific. So I didn't tear up my arm, but I like built up the tendons and ligaments around those joints in a way that was helpful. And I'm one of the few people that like my progress has been like pretty slow and steady. Like I'm not a person that comes in and like makes a 4 meter improvement in a year, because it's just I'm consistently getting better. But part of that is that haven't really had any major injuries, which is kind of a rarity in the javelin. Like I've never really missed a season for an injury, which is really fun and uh, something that I don't think I've until as of late really valued. And that's why even at 33, I'm like, I could keep doing this as long as I want to because it doesn't really hurt. Like I feel fine. I'm not nursing an old injury. I've got all of that going for me. So, yeah, advantages and disadvantages to starting it later. But I think it's part of the reason that I'm still doing it now.
The thing about the javelin that I appreciate, so in high school, I threw the shot put and the discus. And I think I like the javelin, or I can relate to it a little bit because I perceive the javelin like I perceive the discus. I remember in eighth grade, they were like, listen, you're big. We need you out here throwing. We don't have anybody. And so I was like, okay, so I'll go out here. And the reason I started was because they put your name on the team jackets, and I really
Nice.
wanted one.
Nice.
And I think I broke it. Like I don't even know where it is. Um, but I saw them throw the discus. I'm like, oh, look at this little frisbee looking thing and all this stuff. Which don't you throw the discus? Told my athletes that if you throw the discus like a frisbee, then you're going to pick your arm up off the pit,
Absolutely.
off the ground. But I noticed this, and it was a humbling thing. I thought, I'm big, I'm strong, I got this. I was getting beat by kids that were like shorter than me. They weighed less than me. And I was like, I got power, but the disc is not, power is nice, it's necessary,
Hmm.
but it's not all that's cut out to be. And that's kind of the same thing. Shot put, yes, you need yes, you need all that in a shot put. Joe Kovacs, can bench the entire planet of Mars.
Pretty much.
And you know, that is, and you see why. The javelin, it really doesn't matter because if anything, and I had Kara Winger on the show way back when, and we talked about it, is not how buff you are, it's just the movement, and it's don't skip leg day. Um, really,
Yeah.
because everybody thinks it's just like what you do is just all arms and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, but it's so much, you're getting power in your legs and stuff, and everything. Um, I would say, what was the most rewarding thing that you learned about the javelin when you started throwing it? Obviously, that was mine, but I'm curious from your vantage point. And what is a misconception that you want debunked about the event?
Um, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one is that and the way that you described your experience in discus is still to this day kind of how I feel about javelin sometimes where I'm like, but I'm bigger and faster and like why isn't this going as far? So unfortunately some of that never goes away. But I mean you hit the nail on the head like it's a legs and core event not necessarily an arm thing. And the thing that I get told all the time that drives me absolutely crazy is that I have this really fast arm. And everyone's like, "Oh, your arm's so fast. That's so great. How do I get a fast arm like that?" And I'm always like, that's I'm not trying, like, you don't want a fast arm. You want time on the javelin. You need time under tension, and when it actually comes out of your hand, it's going to actually look like you're on the jav a long time, like you're throwing it slowly almost. Like the video of my like PR of 63 meters is the slowest my arm has ever looked in a video. Just because the amount of time that my arm or my hand was on the javelin was actually much longer than normal, and much longer, maybe like a quarter of a second. But in a video, it looks so much longer. So when you see a really fast arm, it usually means the person's firing faster, or they're being arm dominant, or things like that. Uh, and so yeah, I all the time I have people be like, "Your arm's so fast, you're blah 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 blah." That's great, but you're just reinforcing to me that I'm maybe not getting as much out of it as I could. So appreciate it.
More harm. You see, people, y'all just need to stop talking. That's just that's the reality. Javelin to me is, and I think you may understand this, and then we're gonna switch topics. It's like a quarterback, because your quarterback, Jack does not necessarily mean you're gonna throw. You may throw the ball a little harder, but some of the skinniest dudes in the world can chuck the ball 75 yards. But it's about like your stance, your the power that you get in the legs and all of that stuff. Um, I low key kind of see some correlation with the javelin, and that's what kind of helped me learn more about the event and what made me like it. Granted, I don't see it often because it's not on TV, or if it is, they cut to commercial. But I don't know, just for me, that's one thing that made me like the event more.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I always make the maybe not fair joke of most of the throwing events, the athletes, if you're trying to guess what event they do, most of the athletes are shaped like their implement. So like in the shot put, right? Like you're probably a little bit bigger around. You're very dense, like you're just a big mountain of a human.
Okay.
Uh Discus, like there's kind of like some length, and I always correlate that to like your wingspan is usually just obscenely long, that sort of stuff. Hammer, I swear every hammer thrower has these like internally rotated shoulders from like holding on to the hammer. Um and I don't know how that correlates to a hammer, but I have to say that because it makes my joke work better.
Okay.
And then, but the javelin, there's not one body type. Like whenever you do the announcements for the javelin, you have people that are tall, that are short, like rectangles, pairs, like all sorts of stuff. Um, but it's because it's all about how you use those legs, and like basically it's such a technique driven sport that if you may not be built quote unquote like the primetime quarterback, but if you can line it up, you're all set.
Yeah. Tom Brady, for example. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's a really good example because he doesn't have the measurables, but I mean, he's Tom freaking Brady. I
Hmm.
was really trying to see where you were going with the discus one because I was like, I don't I don't know how
Yeah,
you
I have
could.
to be careful sometimes too. I'm like, you're not round, but like there's this like it's like shoulder and then just arms, and they just seem to keep going.
Okay, that makes sense because I was like, how are we? And it wasn't like I was getting offended. I was just like, I don't
Yeah. Well,
know. It's
and
like,
like
do they have like oval shaped heads or something like
oval
that? Or
shaped heads, yeah. Well, and it's like they're not as round. Like maybe there's a little bit more protrusion in the middle, but for the most part, like kind of narrow,
and
like
length.
narrow and long.
Yeah, I get that. That's a perfect. I like the
It's
joke. I mean,
a
listen,
little
if
bit of a stretch. It's not a good joke. Most of my jokes aren't good, so I'll admit that.
well, listen, if one person laughs, then I think it's a success.
Usually it's just me, so that's one, but
Well, here's the
that's
thing: if
okay.
you can't laugh at your own jokes, then you know
That's true. The jokes are mostly for me, so it works out great.
exactly. What are three things that people do not know about you?
Three things that people do not know about me. Um, wow. For some reason, people don't believe that I have siblings. I know that's a really weird thing to say to someone who doesn't know me, anyways. But
People say some weird stuff to you.
yeah, they're like, "Oh, what are I?" So I'm the oldest of three. My two younger siblings, like, there are no athletes in my family at all. Um, I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty fit. But I am the dumbest and fattest person in my family.
The dumbest and fattest person.
Mhm. I want to be clear that I'm not dumb or fat, but within that context, I may be an Olympic athlete, but my brother and sister are just so skinny, so smart. Just I can't hold a candle to them. And so that's always something that people just either don't know or don't refuse to believe when I tell them. So that's one. Two is I don't know, what do people not know about me? Unclear. Apparently that I don't like ice cream.
That
That's
was
that
I mean,
apparently.
I don't think that's so you're more of a so that's two, you're more of a savory than sweet, or as Guy Fieri says, all thriller, no filler. He didn't say it. Somebody in a rap song said it, but I feel like it goes perfectly with that.
Makes perfect sense. Um, what else would people not know about me? I don't know. I feel like things people wouldn't know about me implies that I have some sort of like secret life, like I'm secretly a double agent. Um, but what you see is what you get. So, um, what do people not know about me?
So we got two. Just need one more. It could be a hidden talent. It could be uh
I play the piano. Or
oh,
there you go. That's one. I was looking right at it. I could have just said that, huh?
okay.
My grandmother, who is 93,
Oh, bless her
um,
heart.
she lives in Texas, and I'm in California now. We do piano lessons over FaceTime once a week because she's been my piano teacher. Like, she is a professional piano teacher. And she taught me as a kid, and I this year was like, I want to get back into it, and it's a great way to hang out with her. So I once a week get on the phone with my 93-year-old grandmother on FaceTime, and we like have a piano lesson.
That's so dope. I love that.
Yeah.
Bless her heart. She knows how to use a phone. We say bless your
She
heart down
she
here
had
in
a
Florida. So
BlackBerry she had a BlackBerry before I had a phone, like, and she shows me how to do stuff on the phone sometimes. This is coming from a woman who did not have, like, running water until, like, her teenage years, and now she is, like, this technological wizard, um, like, just the best. She's so great, so
that
that's I
is
always look forward to that every week. Even when I'm just absolutely butchering her favorite song, just doing my best, but she's like, "Oh, I played this in college." I'm like, "This is hard. This is a hard song."
what songs are you playing?
Um, so like, I can kinda get through the classics like Clair de Lune, Moonlight Sonata, that sort of stuff, but there's this piece, it's called, like, Rhapsody in C by this Russian composer that it's her favorite song, it's one that she played in college. Um, I can, like, send you the link to it. It's
Okay.
like we like, started working on it together, and, like, I thought that I was getting it, and then I made the mistake of going on YouTube and being like, "What's this supposed to sound like at full speed?" I don't know how I'm ever gonna get there. I It's so hard. So,
Mm.
we'll see how that goes. I
You,
just
wow. You guys should
yeah.
write a song together.
I had she I would just write it and she would do all of the musical accompaniment. I
That's
just
fine. And just call it sweet and savory.
There you
Like
go. There you go.
it's
Under the Sea. We
under
could
the
play Under the
sea.
Sea
The
together.
remix, the remix to Stevie
Remix it.
Wonder's Ebony and Ivory. I like that.
There you
I like that. Oh
there you go.
man. So what is life like when you're not, and we're going to get to the day job in a minute, but you know, what is life for you? Are you just somebody who kicks back, hits up the TV, everybody seems to be enjoying this Netflix crap, or are you like a top chef, low key, or
Um, I I don't even know what I do with my day sometimes. So I work full time and then I train. And then I currently live with 4 roommates because I'm in Southern California. So I get in my 30 minutes of socializing with them. And then I eat dinner and then I'm like learning Spanish too. So I'm like I'll spend like some time on Duolingo, like trying to learn some Spanish. I guess that would have been a fun fact, huh? People
yeah,
don't know.
it's a convicting fact because I deleted the app a couple months ago.
Oh, well, I'm on a family plan, so
Oh,
I
there
have
you
to
you see, yeah, there
figure it
you
out.
go. Shout out
Yeah.
to your family.
So yeah, I don't even know what I do all day. Like I don't really watch a ton of TV. Like I'm about to get on this plane and I'm like, I'm probably just gonna sleep the whole time and maybe watch a movie that I've already watched before because I don't have the capacity to try and start a new show and catch up on something. Like I keep seeing all this stuff about Stranger Things, never watched an episode. Breaking Bad, never watched an episode. We didn't have a movie theater in my town growing up. I'm not used to watching movies. I I read books. I don't know.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, that's cool. You will like this show. I don't know why I'm just trying to promote this show. It went off a couple years ago, but I really like it. It's called The Good Place.
Oh, I love that show.
There you go. I
I've
love
seen that one. That is the one TV show that I'm always like, I think that you should watch this. And people are like, but I have you seen Stranger Things? I'm like, no, and I don't care. Go watch The Good Place. It's just 4 seasons. And I hate that thing where you're like, just watch the whole first season and then you'll want to watch the rest of it. And they're like, a whole season? I'm like, I can't say anything without giving it away, but you have to do it. You have to do it.
Oh, my mom and I, we do spoilers. Listen, I'm on season 4, and I've been slowly. Here's the thing: I went through seasons 1 through 3 in like a span of like a week or two,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
once you start watching, you cannot stop.
And
And
all the little subtleties in there, oh my gosh, they're so funny.
who was your
It's so
favorite
clever.
character?
Um, I I actually love the judge, Maya
Oh, Maya
Rudolph.
Rudolph.
She's so funny. Um, I think it's yeah, the judge is really funny. Derek is ridiculous.
You remind me low key of Janet,
Of Janet.
because
You know what? I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad about that at all.
shout out to Darcy Carlin.
She's
Oh
so good
man.
in that role. And it's funny too because she's like a tall woman and like in heels and just so perfectly on the edge of like being a know-it-all, but also somehow not annoying. Like it's such a fine line to walk and she does such a good job.
And she's like really smart.
Mhm.
Um, but then she's like human. Like everybody has a human side, everybody has a sweet side. Um, and I'm impressed because the only character that used to get on my nerves was Jason.
Yes, Jason was so
And
dumb. Oh,
but then again, he saves the day in I'm on season 4,
yeah.
when Michael was about to get blasted into because they didn't believe him, and so
Yeah.
it was the bad Janet, and then he put the clamps on the bad Janet, and
This is
because
gonna be so confusing to anyone that hasn't watched The Good Place.
yes, which this is a free promo because he's like,
Yeah.
"I love you, girl," and she didn't say anything because she just goes, "I'm not a girl,"
Yeah, I'm
and
not a girl.
oh boy. And I'm like emotional with some of these episodes. Like when they erase Chidi's memory and
Yes.
Eleanor is crying, I'm sitting up in here like I ain't crying. It's
Oh,
just my bad
you're gonna cry.
allergies.
You're gonna cry at the last episode.
Oh
It's like
frick.
it's perfect, but you will cry.
I already know what's coming because I just like this is too I don't like emotions. I'm like the Grinch. Like I don't like feeling things. And so I just needed to see what is coming. And I saw the table read, and then I
Oh,
saw
okay.
like the finale show with Seth Meyers, and I was just like, "Dang, this is gonna be so bad."
Yeah, I know, but it's so good and it's such a perfect ending and just a great show. 4 seasons.
Yes.
If you haven't watched
So
it, you gotta watch it. So
you have to watch The Good Place. And then it was perfect. Like it didn't need to extend any more than it
no.
did. Even though I'm sad that it was only, 4 seasons. Man, that makes me so happy that somebody because
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna download The Good Place onto my computer and watch it on the plane. Brilliant idea. That was an excellent idea.
honestly, you're the only person that has come on this show because I mentioned The Good Place at least 3 or 4 times. Now I don't
Okay,
know
well
what that is.
you haven't mentioned it to Kara because I made Kara watch The Good Place also, and she also loved it.
Okay,
So you've at least got two of your javelin throwers that have watched The
that's
Good Place. So
that's why javelin throwers they run the world.
you're in good company.
So you grew up in a small town because I could talk about The Good Place all day.
I know. Just a whole separate episode about The Good Place.
I know that's when we do the wings and hot takes episode. We will insert some Good Place stuff in
Yes.
there. I promise.
Yes.
You grew up in a small town, Gonzales, Texas.
Hmm.
I had no. I guess it's near San Antonio.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up in that kind of small town environment, especially here in California? Like, is this like
Yeah.
foreign territory to you?
So San Diego's the furthest north I've ever lived, which is my fun fact that I do to make Californians' brains explode because they can't think about geography beyond California. Um, it's definitely, as much as it was a chaos growing up in it, like it felt like there was nothing ever to do. But we were always outside because, like I said, like there wasn't a movie theater, there wasn't like a mini golf course, there wasn't a bowling alley, there wasn't stuff that you typically, or a mall, there weren't those things that like you typically think of as like what kids go and do. Um, so we definitely did some of the stereotypical like Texas things. Like we always had like a little gun or whatever. Like we played cops and robbers with real BB guns. Like the fact that I
Oh
have both of my
boy.
eyes is kind of incredible. So
Oh my
like there was
gosh.
definitely like that aspect of it. But also the quintessential small town, like everybody knows your name, everybody knows who knows your family, all that sort of stuff, and that was kind of fun and also annoying sometimes. Because if you ran a red light, your parents knew before you got home, because someone was like, "Hey,
Everybody
I know."
all up in your business. They know everything.
Right. But one of the things that I think was so interesting about growing up in Gonzales when I did is that it's this little small Texas town, like all those little come and take it flags that you see around. That's what my town is known for. Like that's where the flags are from.
Hmm.
And like you think of it as this like redneck podunk little town. But there were these little ways in which they were very progressive. So like I played high school football. Um, and all of my teammates wanted me to play. Like I wasn't just doing it to like make a statement about female sports. People wanted me to play and the coaches were supportive of that. And like I started because I deserved to start, not because I was a girl and like trying to do something like, and I think that I didn't maybe value that as much as I should have. Because I've heard stories since then about girls that were like, "Oh yeah, I wanted to play, but they wouldn't let me." And I was like, "They wouldn't let you? Like, what do you mean?" I just walked in and said, "Hey, I want to do this. Like, how am I going to make it work? Because I'm also in band and also playing volleyball. So like, can you work with my schedule?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." Um, so there were little parts about that were really fun and like playing six sports would have never happened if I'd gone to a big high school, right? Like
Yeah.
they don't you don't get to do that. Um, so there were definitely advantages to it. And it's been really fun. Like when I went to the Olympics, like they put up like a little billboard uh for me, like right outside like one of the little coffee shops. And uh it was just really fun growing up in that. And the further away I get from it, the more I appreciate it, what
Mhm.
it was.
You were in the band too? What
Yeah, I
what
played the French
instrument?
horn.
Oh, the French horn. I mean, okay, so we need to call you Ariana Janet Mozart Ince because that is
I wanna be clear, I don't think I was very good.
Y-
I got put in the French horn because my mom was in the band in college, and she had a French horn, and I had a decent ear, and no one else wanted to play it. Like, everyone wants to be a trumpet player or a flute player or, like, a trombone player, and they're like, "Well, we need at least 3 people to play the French horn." I was like, "Okay." So,
Listen, if you stunk, then everybody would have heard it. So you
that's true.
cannot
I'm
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, everybody's playing a certain key, and then you're out here playing Get Down on It by Cool in the game, that key.
I should have done that. That would've been more fun,
That would have
probably.
been dope. I would have loved that. We need to see video. Honest to God's truth, I could see you on the football field. And it's so true. Like the only positions that girls can play football necessarily the kickers because of the contact. Now, I will say this. There are times where I was like, okay, you got a guy that's going to Alabama, Ohio State.
Yeah.
There are boys that don't want to get in front, of somebody like that. But in
Right.
general, I mean, I think it's really awesome that you got that opportunity. I could fully see you coming off the edge on a screen, on a zone read, just lighting somebody up. Like, if you have film, please post it. Like, I would love
I
to
don't know
see
that
it.
I have any, I earholed a few people.
Oh boy.
Like, I was really good about, like, catching people, like, coming across the middle and, like, eyeing the ball and, like, seeing where they're coming and just timing that up really well. Um, I The only downside of that was I had this one teammate, his name was Hunter, and I would do that, and he would run over from the defensive line and scream in the guy's face that I had just earholed and be like, "You just got knocked out by a girl." And I'm like, "Hunter, could you not, like, put a target on my back right now? Like, that would be really great." But it was just because he was, like, really pumped and, like, loved the hit. Uh, but yeah, like, and I knew, like, I stopped playing football after my sophomore year of high school because all of the boys that I played with, like, they hit puberty, and I was I was basically done growing for the most part, and I was like, no, like, my future's not in football, and this was fun. But I recognize that I'm maybe no longer in a position to, like, be competitive. I could have probably done okay, but it wasn't worth it at that point, and I was like, "I'm not doing this to make a statement, it's not as fun anymore. I've kind of found this track and field thing, I'm gonna stick with that." So, um, you're right, I don't think anyone from my area ever went to an Alabama or anything like that, so that was
Oh,
also not a problem that I had to deal with.
oh man, I would just love to see that. Like that.
Yeah.
I bet you killed in fantasy football.
I'm terrible at fantasy football because I don't pay any attention to the NFL. Um So I just like I just get destroyed in my fantasy football league all the time, and
I
I
do, and and that reminds me, I need to actually launch that like soon, because I just can't believe it's August. But yeah, I study and everything, get whooped 10 out of 10 times. I think I've won once in the past 17 years. Um, but that's neither here nor there. Those are L's that I would like to keep in the closet. You, it's so funny. Like you are, your day job is as an ergonomist.
Mhm. Yep,
I got that right.
you got it right. You did it great.
Praise God.
W's all around.
Tell me, I've done the research, but essentially it looks like, from what I understand, you are out there pretty much serving the people, trying to protect the people, implementing standards and policies in place that uh and I'm actually proud of myself because these big words that I just muted out were not things that I looked up. These are things
Okay.
that came to my head. Um but you have these policies and procedures and everything in place to ensure their safety on the job site. Did I get that right?
For the most part, so I don't necessarily write policies or procedures, and ergonomics is kind of it's not a hard and fast field. Like, there's no big, like, you have to do this for your employees type of situation. So mostly what I do, because right now I work for a workers' comp insurance company, and I'm actually getting ready to transition jobs, um, and work for a university and be basically an ergonomics consultant within that for outside clients. But what that means is essentially when a business is having a lot of injuries, Typically, like manufacturing lines, it could be any real industry like agriculture, delivery drivers, like any industry that you can think of. People get hurt at work, and a lot of times it's not necessarily the worker's fault. Um, it's typically the way that their environment is designed or policies and procedures that are in place. So my job is, or has been at least with this most recent company with insurance, is anytime a policyholder is having a number of sprains and strains and issues like that, I go in and help them kind of problem solve where they're coming from, and we like redesign that job task so that the workers are less likely to get injured and or the process is more efficient.
So
So to
pretty
give you
much
an
you're a
example,
problem solver.
yeah, or yeah, I'm a problem solver. I'll take that. So like for example, like I was at a bakery not that long ago and they have these like giant mixing bowls that they're having to like put in these giant mixers, and they've got like the meringue batter that they're mixing up and then they're taking it to a different thing, but the mixers are on the ground, and so the mixing bowls, which can weigh up to 50, 60 pounds, are on these little carts. But the mixing bowls are really low. So they're like the top of the mixing bowls at like 2 feet. So you're having to like push something that's at 2 feet high, so like below your knees, around, that weighs almost 50 pounds, back and forth through a facility all day long. So you're constantly bent over, constantly pushing. So a lot of people end up with like back issues. So what we did is we went in and we built stands for the mixers, so the mixers are up higher, and then changed out the casters and the stands for the mixing bowls. So now the mixing bowl is up more like mid thigh height. So there's still like a little bit of bent over posture, but you're not basically like bent over and pushing stuff all day long. And some of the taller employees could do the task without as much of an issue as before.
Wow.
Is that a good
No, it
example?
makes sense. Like you go in, you essentially do what was it? What do we call it in school? Like the scientific method almost.
Hmm.
Um, to try to find the problem and then work to build a solution
Right.
so that it eliminates issues. Why do you love what you do so much? And what brought you to that field? Because you're like a keynote
So
speaker places and all that stuff is
yeah,
crazy.
well, and to be entirely fair, the main reason I think I got invited to be a keynote speaker was because I went to the Olympics, so it's kind of like crossover back and forth. I'll be for completely upfront about that. So the thing that I love about it most is that I know that I'm making an active difference in what people's daily life looks like. And it's not just necessarily manufacturing environments. Like I really like I think that's really important, like the blue collar workers who are like making the economy run. But also just seeing the difference in someone's um, mood, like in an office ergonomic setup where I come in and they're like, "Oh, my back and my neck, and I can't do this, and my doctor says I need surgery." And you're like, "No, like let's just fix some things so that your environment fits you and you can be comfortable." And then you walk out of their office and they're like, "Oh my, like I feel like I can sit up straight, like I can breathe easier because my chest is open." Like watching that change and like helping people live happier and more productive lives is extremely fulfilling. And so it just makes it easier to kind of wade through some of the bureaucratic stuff sometimes, because you know that at the end of the day your goal is to help people live pain free. So I think of myself as preemptive to like a physical therapist or even a doctor. Like I want to try and prevent you even having to go to those people. And so I'm walking around all day, I'm talking to people, I'm getting to use my brain and solve problems. And I kind of just happened into the field. So my undergrad is actually in civil engineering. So my terrible joke is that I spent 4 years learning how to make stuff stable and not move. And now I spend all of my time walking around telling people to move. Um, so thank you for laughing. Um,
It was a good joke. I mean,
so I kind of just fell into it. I got my engineering degree, realized I didn't necessarily want to design buildings or sewage systems and stuff like that. Kind of wandered through a couple of master's programs, ended up in College Station training there for the Javelin, met a professor, talked through what I like to do. He recommended I get in this master's program for occupational health and safety. Within that, I found ergonomics and immediately loved it. And then kind of the rest is history from there. So it was not a direct path, not unlike my path to Javelin, but the way that I got there ultimately resulted in a much happier result than if I'd maybe gone directly to it. So
Artificial health and safety. I never heard of that one.
occupational health and safety. I probably misspoke.
Well, no
Yeah,
wonder I never heard of it because it doesn't exist.
because it does. Because I lied to you. Just made something up.
Couple more questions, then we're gonna do rapid fire. Then we're gonna get you out of here so you can download the good places.
Yeah.
You're low key. I called you. You're like this is true. So you're a combination of three characters.
Okay.
You are a healthy version of Chidi without all the
Okay.
stomach bugs when he gets
Yeah.
nervous because of like the whatever the way he breaks things down to help people, like the very in-depth, you know, way he studies and the movements and all that
Hmm.
stuff. Janet, for obvious reasons. And then Michael, the good Michael, not the demon Michael, but the good Michael.
I was
Do,
ready. I was so ready for you to say Eleanor, and I was like, "Oh man!"
do you think you're like Eleanor?
No, I don't think I am, but I was ready
Oh,
for you to be like,
no, but
"You tell
Michael,
terrible jokes like Eleanor."
Eleanor's funny. I laugh at her jokes. I
But
mean,
I'll take good Michael. Sorry to interrupt you.
but yeah, good Michael, because good Michael, is an architect and stuff like that. And so, he could build things and, create solutions to problems essentially. Uh so yeah, you are like a combination of three characters. How does the javelin, and I don't mean this question as a stretch, it's you know, I'm genuinely curious. Do you see any mesh between the javelin and what you do? Um, I forgot what it is you called
As an
as an
ergonomist.
ergonomist. Oh, cool. Ergonomist. Do you
Yeah.
see any crossover, any balance, anything that each teaches you that helps you with each respective, path that you're on?
Um, I mean, on the outset, you would say no, because ergonomics is all about keeping you in safe and neutral postures as much as possible, whereas javelin is very much trying to get as much length as possible and putting yourself in these really weird positions at length and like putting yourself under tension and trying to increase time under tension, whereas ergonomics we're trying to always decrease the amount of time that employees are spending under tension. So at the outset, they're almost opposites. But I think one of the things that Javelin has taught me is, and they kind of go back and forth, is I think I have a pretty well-rounded sense of how the body works. So that helps me when I'm working with employees, or even as an example, like I was talking to my manager the other day and she was getting ready to finish the John Muir Trail. Like she has done it in sections and she was getting ready to do it, but she was having all of these nerve or these issues in her foot. And the doctor wanted to give her a shot. And she's like, I don't know, it kind of comes and goes. They don't seem to know what it is. They want to give me a cortisone shot. And I knew enough about it that I was like, well, that honestly sounds like nerve pain and like nerve entrapment since it's like only in your foot and it's like the way that you're describing it coming and going. And I was like, and if it's right in this exact spot, like that's where that nerve ends. And so it's like the end of a garden hose. Like if I kink it up here, like now water's not going to come out and you're going to get signals kind of in and out back
Right.
there. So I was like, you probably need to stretch, and I, like, looked up, like, where that nerve innervates, and I was like, "You probably need to, like, stretch your, like, tibialis anterior, like, the front of your calf, basically, because that's probably all gunked up from all of your walking, and stretch that because it's probably tight through there." She went and did the trail, and she was like, "I did your stretch, and like that nerve pain went away, like it hasn't come back." And not to say that I'm a PT or that I have any medical diagnosis whatsoever, but I only know about that kind of aspect of it because through javelin I've had issues in that part of my leg, like my peroneus brevis is like always a little bit tight. So like I'm aware of how those muscles move around that part of the calf.
Mhm.
So I'm able to like cross reference those two things with each other. And it makes it look like I'm a genius, but really it's just because I was trying to solve my own problems.
I like it. I mean, it does, the anatomy of it, is incredible. So I like that. Couple more questions, then we're gonna wrap this bad boy up. What is your so what university are you gonna be working for, if you can share that? If you can't, no
Uh,
biggie.
no, I can't. So I will actually be working for North Carolina State, but I will
Okay.
be living in Colorado Springs. So I'll be working remotely for them. They basically have like an ergonomic center where companies come to them to solve their problems. So that like you'll have major players, and I can't say the client list, but you'll
Oh,
have
it's
major clients come in and be like, we need to increase the efficiency of this part of the production line because it's a bottleneck, and also workers are getting hurt doing this task. Can you come in and do an analysis? So I'll do that, and I'll handle a lot of the Western accounts because right now they've got the East Coast pretty settled. They've got a guy in Oklahoma, but then I'll handle more of the Western stuff.
we need to start calling you doctor, like for real.
I no, I do not have a PhD, and I'm really
We,
trying to fight the urge to go get one. So
you don't need one. Like people have honorary PhDs, so what's stopping us from giving you? So yeah, Dr. Ariana Ince. So these are the last two questions that I
okay.
have. What is the ultimate goal for you as your career continues in the javelin as well as an ergonomist?
Um, as a javelin thrower, I mean, I think everyone wants to say like teams or medals or records or things like that. At the end of the day, I just want to walk away from it and be like, that was the maximum potential that I had. Like that's as far as I could have physically thrown that with the abilities and the skills that I have. Whether that turns into something that's, shows up in some sort of external achievement, cool, that's great. I think that based upon what I think that ceiling is, I think that it would, but you never know based on how other people are throwing. So, really, like walking away from it and knowing, like, I got the most out of that I possibly could. I had always said that I wanted to throw through 2025 because they had originally said that that World Championships was going to be in Africa. And my first ever international trip, my first time leaving the United States, my first international competition was in the Congo.
Oh wow.
So that to me was going to be a really cool bookend to like start and finish in Africa. But they just announced that 2025 World Championships are going to be in Tokyo, which is cool. But now part of me is like, so do I keep going or what does that mean? So um, that only happened, I think, 2 weeks ago. So I haven't figured that part out in terms of what that looks like. But as an ergonomist, eventually what I'd like to get into is expert witness testimony. Um, Basically, where I show up and I'm like, well, this couldn't possibly have happened because a car actually at this rate, traveling at this speed, stops at this distance. And like, even if these external factors of friction were present, like, there's no way that the client could have hit somebody going that fast and that resulted in this damage, that sort of stuff. Because I think that's just really fun. And like, I think that is, I'm a real, I really hate dishonesty, and that really bothers
Yeah.
me. So if I can use the things that I know in a setting like that where there might be real problems for other people, I want to apply that knowledge and uh, do that. I also think I would be great in a courtroom setting, but
Oh,
that's maybe arrogance.
you would like for sure be the Olympic version of Johnny Cochran or the athletic version of Claire Huxtable. Uh, so I could definitely see that. I mean, you are literally. I was thinking when I was researching the show, I was like, I'm gonna be talking to the nicer, more talented version of Sheldon Cooper, but um I don't even think that's fair. You're like the the jack of all trades, the master of almost every single one of them. Um, yeah, you ain't got to say it. I said it for you. Um, so last question. What advice your journey as an as a javelin thrower to what you do outside of the track as an ergonomist, they were both, would you say, maybe a little unconventional,
Mhm.
um, but you stayed the course and found your path and what you meant to do and what you love. What advice would you give to someone out there who's struggling in that same, sense, who's trying to find what they love to do and maybe their path is a little unconventional at the moment?
Um, I would say unconventional is fun, and I think the thing that I always struggle with is that there are too many people that want to tell you that what you're doing is a sacrifice. There are too many people that wanna tell me, like, "Oh, like, I don't know how you do all of that, like, you're really sacrificing this," or you're like, "Y you don't have a family, you don't have, like, you could be making so much more money, like, you could be doing these other things, like, you could, have all these jobs or whatever," and I'm like, "But I don't."
You don't
It's
want to.
or, like, you could go out every night and, like, be at the bars and, like, go to this concert, and I'm like, "No, I wanna go to bed at 9:30, because I have to do all this stuff the next day," and I there it's not a sacrifice if it's what you wanna do. And there every time you make a choice, there's something that comes away from that that you don't get to do. Like,
Right.
every action that you choose, there's something else that you now can't do. So, I like, whenever I'm done with track, like, I can go out to the bars, like, I'm not missing my 20s or my early 30s. This is what I would much rather do this. I'm going to Italy today, to throw a javelin. Like, isn't that ridiculous and cool? But if I had all year been like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, working out's hard and having a job's hard and doing all that stuff." If it's what you wanna do, then make that choice and do it, and don't let anyone tell you that you're, like, making sacrifices because your goals and their goals aren't the same. Um, and if you change your mind and your goals are like you don't want to do this anymore, that's also fine. But don't ever let anyone tell you like all the sacrifices you're making because then it makes it sound like it's a chore and not a fun thing that you've actively chosen to do.
Right. I love
So
that.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, no. Listen, I love that. Listen to the doctor because she just prescribed up a word on this Sunday. I love it.
There you go.
So we have come to the end, as boys to men would say, we have come to the end of the road. And we are going to do what I like to call down the home stretch. It is our rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to answer them to the best of your ability as fast as you can. If you don't,
Okay.
it is really okay. We have had an increase of people who have done well. We just want you to make the podium. Right now,
Okay.
gold medalist is Marley Stolper from NC State, the
Okay.
All American from NC State. Our silver medalist is Sinclair Johnson. Um, and we have a four-way tie for the bronze, including
Okay.
Kara Winger, Nessa Frazier, Eric Sawinski, and the person and Sage Herta.
Okay.
So we're gonna get you a medal. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right.
All
If there
right.
was a if there was a food that you had to live with and live without, what would it be?
I would live with steak and I would live without ice cream.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask a couple follow-up questions that do not count against the time. What
Okay.
cut of steak and how do you like your steak cooked?
Uh, Probably, let's see. Ooh, we're gonna do probably ribeye. And
Okay.
we're gonna do medium rare.
Ugh,
Always medium rare.
ew. Okay.
Taste it.
Then you
Um,
might as well just buy the living cow.
I mean, I would. It's just frowned upon. I
That's
just.
fair. Listen. What stays in Gonzales, what happens in Gonzales stays in Gonzales. Okay. So you want a cow that's still moving and to get rid of
Mhm.
ice cream. Oddly enough, they come from the same family.
I want
Uh
one part, but not all of it. Yeah.
yeah,
I
there
just.
you go. There you go. If they were going to make a movie about your life, what would it be called? And who is the actress in which you want to play your character?
I think the actress who plays Janet should be me,
Darcy
Darcy
Carden.
Carden. She could be me, and it would probably be um I'd want it to be called Sticks and Stones.
Why is that?
Um, Sticks is an homage to the Javelin,
Okay.
and Stones. I don't know why Sticks and Stones hopped in my head immediately. Uh, Something about working and training and doing all those things. I'm
Just the
really struggling
toughness
right now.
mechanism. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know.
the stones will be the toughness mechanism
Yeah, not it's
that you
not a
have.
reference to marijuana, I promise.
No, 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 no. Ain't nobody. No, no, no. Stephen A. Smith says, "Stay off the weed." So, yeah, we're not even tripping over that. All right.
Okay, good.
If you had to be a guest star on any show, whether it is a reality show, whether it's a talk show, anything, what would the show be?
A
That can't
guest
be.
star?
Yeah, it can't be The Good Place.
Oh, okay. I've always wanted to be on The Amazing Race. I think I would crush that. But if I'm actually going to be a guest star on a TV show, I think it would be really fun to dress up in the costumes from Bridgerton.
Oh, okay. Well, that would
It'd be
be
very
that would
silly. I would never. I'd want all the hats.
and just keep them in the closet. I like that. You can go to
Mhm.
court with those hats too. That
Yeah.
would be awesome. Dream vacation spot.
Dream vacation spot, probably the Maldives.
Oh, okay. That would be a good one. What's been your favorite location to throw the javelin so far?
I really loved Latvia. I threw it two meets in Latvia in 2019. So Ventspils is like on the coast, and then in Riga. And Riga is everything you want a European city to be without all the haggling and hassle and dirty and all that sort of stuff. So I really loved Latvia.
Okay. If there was a trend that you had to get rid of and a trend that you would want to bring back, what would they be?
Um, I I hate high waisted jeans because I have really long legs and it makes me look like Gumby.
Okay.
Um, I absolutely can't stand them. It's absurd. So I wish those would go away. And I would love to bring back short shorts for men, like mid thigh shorts for men. I love
The
it. I love it
jorts?
so much. Yeah, not jorts, not jean shorts. Just like like the 80s basketball players. Men
Oh,
have better
where
like
oh boy. So
I
we
I
have
men
those in
have better
track.
yeah, men have better legs than women, and I think it's a shame that they get covered up. So I think we
Okay.
need to flip the tables. Bring
There
back
is
short shorts for men.
okay. There's not a man in this country that agrees with you.
That's
Because
okay. That's why I'm
but
bringing it back.
okay, that's what you
Selfishly.
you bring it back
Selfishly.
and then you enjoy the product. Okay, that's what.
That's yeah, that's very selfish of me, I'll admit it.
Oh man. All righty. What was the last thing that's not short shorts that made you smile?
The last thing that's not short shorts that made me smile. I went mini golfing with two of my roommates last night, and it was so much fun. And one of them had never gone mini golfing before, and like she's a multi-athlete, like she's a heptathlete, but she like her stance every time she went to hit the ball was the most uncoordinated looking thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh boy.
And it was so funny, and I laughed about it all night. So that was probably yeah, probably last night. That was really fun.
Favorite comedian of all time?
Ooh, I forget his first name, but it's Carlin.
Jeff
Uh,
Carlin?
no, I think it's like Dave Carlin.
Dave Carlin? I don't even know if there's a Jeff
Only
Carlin
because he has
alive.
a very specific joke that I love that I apply whenever I'm driving because it makes me calm down. And it is think about how dumb the average person is. Take a minute. Now, realize that that means half the people are dumber than that.
Okay.
And whenever I think about that when I'm driving, I'm like, oh, it's not their fault. Like, it's not their fault. They're just think about how bad the average driver is, and half of them are worse than that, and that's just what's happening right now, and it's
That's
okay.
that's true. That is true. Okay. If there was somebody to narrate your a javelin competition that you just want to narrate it in general, who would you roll with? We'll have a couple more.
I would really appreciate it if Morgan Freeman and Julie Andrews would tag team and do a back and
Oh
forth.
boy, Jill. I low key met Julie Andrews
What?
before. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, at Disney. She and Anne Hathaway read to a bunch of us little kids back in the day. So
That's
shout out
fun.
to Julie. I don't you
There
don't
you go.
remember me, but or you're not even listening to this. So just want to say hi. Okay. If you had to play a role in a movie, what movie would you play in?
I mean, I would my gut reaction would be to be in like a Marvel movie.
I can see
But
you
I
in like the
think
Avengers.
they're trying so hard to keep those things a secret that I'd just be wearing like a weird bodysuit in an abandoned warehouse somewhere and I wouldn't like be told what I was actually doing because they're keeping that stuff so under wraps
That's true.
that like the actors aren't even acting with each other anymore. So I don't know if that would actually be fun, but it would be cool to actually do some of those stunts.
Okay. A song that describes your life.
Ooh. I can't believe that I'm blanking on this. A song that describes my life?
Yeah. Or if there was a theme song that described your
Maybe
life.
moving on up from the Jeffersons.
Well, moving on up.
Yeah.
Gosh, to the east side. We finally got a piece of. Oh man, I can't. You could be like Florence, maybe.
Yeah, I will take that one. That is definitely what I will take.
Oh man. Last question. You see, now I got to go watch the Jeffersons. I think it's on TV.
No, I have to go watch the Jeffersons.
Oh,
Such a good, such a good
that's
show.
my show. Wheezy, George, God bless the dead. Why does kindness matter to you?
Why does kindness matter? Because it's free.
Okay. Okay. Well, you
Sorry.
you have completed. Usually people give me these long, elaborate answers, but you gave me a credit means get it answer.
It's
So
free. Yeah.
uh,
I just
it's free. Listen, I'm down with it. I'm down with it. You have completed down the home stretch. You have you. I'll give you the bronze medal. So now I have to go get bronze medals made, and you're on the medal stand. That's all we can ask
I
for.
would also understand if some of those answers you were like, no. You just
Some of them I really liked. I mean, listen, I got to go watch Wheezy them.
I know.
Oh, bonus question. Who was the best version of Lionel Jefferson? The one
Who
with
was
the
the best
fro,
version? Yeah.
or the Jack lighter skinned one?
The one with the fro is always my first initial reaction. I think he was the best. I'm terrible with actors' names, but yeah, I
I forgot
just
his name too, but
okay, good.
there's
I was like, ooh.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
the more buff one, and then there's the skinnier one with the fro.
the
I
skinny
think
one with the fro.
that's everybody's favorite. That's like saying what's the best version of Aunt Viv on Fresh Prince.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but like I said, bronze medalists we can add. I am honored to have had bronze medalist Dr. Ariana, Janet, Michael, Cheedy, Johnny Cochran, Claire Huxtable, Sheldon Cooper, Ants on the show. Coming to a courtroom near you. Where can the people find you if they want to follow your journey?
I irregularly update Instagram as my really only form of social media, so it's just at Ariana Ince. I'm the only one. So if you are into really long-winded captions that are pretty funny and sometimes with jokes over your head, come on down. That's pretty much all I do. That's
Hey,
pretty much it.
that's what social media is made for. So yes,
I
be
think
sure
I
to
do it the opposite. It's irregular posting, way too much content in one post. But I have a good time. And you know what? as long as one person laughs.
That's it. That's right there. Listen, I laugh, so that makes two. I'm pretty sure somebody listening to this, laughter is one of the best forms of medicine. And if you subscribe to this podcast, you'll get that laughter for free. All the information where you can find me, you got to listen to it in the preview for this show. It's all there, and we will catch you next time.